with demand expected to come back, the question remains, does this mean the economy is back on track?
Companies now, after experimenting with offshore in places like India, Philippines, and Poland, want to bring those jobs back.
We invest in the U.S. We're the biggest exporter in the country. In the cycle we're in right now, we're creating jobs.
From Radio America, it's Neil Asbury's Made in America, the show that explores American industry, large and small, and promotes American-made products everywhere. Put Neil Asbury's Made in America to work for you.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Well, Rich, President Biden went to the UN this past week. And, you know, it was sad, you know, it was completely sad to see that we have sunk so low. And, you know, when I think about like a word to describe the president, weak, feeble,
cliche,
untrustworthy,
not worthy of Frank Capra. Want me to go on? We could go on.
Well, I said one word, but you're all right too. But it's a sad day. And, you know, when you're looking in this audience, you know, and who's there in the message, and does anybody believe him? I'm just wonder, does anybody believe him? I mean, look at our allies right now. Look at France. I mean, they recalled their ambassador. Look at these images of Afghanistan and how that went down in the UK. And does anybody trust or believe President Biden? I mean, do they? I mean, what do you think?
Well, do they believe him? No, they don't believe what he's saying because they know that he's not saying it. I mean, he's saying it, but he didn't write it. He's not quite sure what he's really saying. I mean, he says it, and then he walks off into the rose garden and gets lost and goes into the bushes. So how could they trust him? Or he gets off from inside the White House and walks into a closet. I mean, we have a man who's totally, really got a problem right now. So, yeah, I think the world's looking at this and wondering, what have we done? What did we do to this country and the world?
Yeah, and the world for that. Yeah.
There are unintended consequences to elections. Man, this is one of them. This is a big consequence.
And President Xi and the folks in Beijing are looking at this and saying, what is America doing to itself?
No, they're playing Happy Days of Here again.
Ripping
That's what they're doing.
Apart.
Yeah, they love it.
And as what was it, General Milley said, said it to his counterpart in China, I guess in this secret call that he made or whatever it was. Well, democracy is very messy, you know. Oh, my goodness. We don't even want to go down that road. But, hey, Rich, we got a great friend of the show on. We're going to talk more about President Biden at the UN. But before we do, we're going to introduce Seton Motley, who is the president of Less Government. Seton, welcome back to Made in America.
Thank you, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Excellent. Well, let me get your comment on this. This was one of the comments, that President Biden made. He made several comments, but this is one of the comments he made on climate change. Let's take a listen to the president this week at the UN.
In April, I announced the United States will double our public international financing to help developing nations tackle the climate crisis. And today, I'm proud to announce that we'll work with the Congress to double that number again, including for adaptation efforts. This will make the United States a leader in public climate finance, and with our added support, together with increased private capital and from other donors, we'll be able to meet the goal of mobilizing $100 billion to support climate action in developing nations.
Well, Seton, this is, listening to the president and all the money that was being flown around there, there's just another cool $100 billion coming from private individuals, private money, and public money, but private money. I don't know who he's referring to, and it's going to get through Congress, and that's a whole nother kettle fish. I mean, it's just completely unbelievable. On top of the, how many trillions and trillions of dollars are we talking about in the reconciliation bill and so on. So what do you make of these comments?
Well, I just think the globalists didn't think we were emptying out America fast enough. So they had, and then of course Trump was reversing that. So they got Biden in there, and I, as you aptly described, he has Alzheimer's or dementia or something. And the deal that was struck, in my estimation, in the Democrat primary between the left and the establishment was the left would get behind Biden if Biden would be the most radical left president in America's history. And that's what's happening. His climate nonsense is the whole thing is nonsense, of course. It's the lie that launched a million lies. It's the greatest scam on earth, and its purpose is to empty out America of all its money and wealth and jobs and production. We've been doing it for 50 years with stupid trade policy and stupid domestic regulatory and tax policy. And now, he's going to give $100 billion to other countries. How unserious is he about this issue? He had a climate meeting. No one showed up, and he didn't care. Because China's not doing anything about climate change. They're still building coal power plants. The EU doesn't care about climate change. They're still building coal power plants. So's Japan. They're building coal power plants. We're unilaterally committing economic suicide to the benefit of everybody else on the planet. And that's what we've been doing for 50 years, and we're just adding a new wrinkle with this climate change nonsense.
Seton, more and more people are saying now, serious people are saying this is not an accident.
No.
A year or so ago, they wouldn't have said that. But now they're saying this is not an accident. You can't rule, and I use that word on purpose, this way without having a purpose. And the purpose is exactly what you're talking about. Let's think for a minute. If we're going to have wind, the windmills come from China. If we're going to have solar, the solar panels come from China. If we're going to have batteries and EVs, electric vehicles, the batteries and the rare earth minerals don't come from us because they're not letting us drill for them and pull them out here. They're coming from China. So other than Hunter Biden here, and Joe, I guess the big guy, who's succeeding with this? It sure as hell isn't the United States.
Right. I mean, it gets to the point where the only reporter in the White House press corps is Peter Doocy, and he asked, we're being lectured by Schumer about fake vaccine, passports, and Doocy says you're letting in 2 million people, across the southern border. Are you checking any of them for vaccine for COVID? I mean, and her answer is completely just no, we're not. And yes, you're right. You have to have a passport and wear a mask, and they don't. And I mean, it's the America Last approach, as broadly and as deeply implemented as we've seen. And we've seen it for a long time, but this is just a hyperactive version of it. I mean, there's nothing about this that helps America. Nothing. Literally nothing. Everything helps everybody else. And, we're slowly unwinding this, but when we found Hunter's laptop last year, by the way, I want to congratulate Hunter Biden on being the modern-day Leonardo da Vinci. He's an artist, he's an oil man, he's an investment broker. I mean, he's a very talented guy. I'm being facetious, of course.
Well, keep him away from ceilings then. They're going to get in real big trouble. We find out on his laptop he got $1.2 billion from a China bank to invest, quote unquote, invest, and 10% went to the big guy. And we have a guy come out and say, I'll tell you who the big guy is. It's Biden. It's Joe Biden. And they squelch the story. Biden crawls across the finish line with illegal votes. If you're not in that camp, I'm sorry for bringing that up. And now we're going, and then we finally, 8 months in, we have more unilateral confirmation that it was not a Russian disinformation campaign. It was Hunter Biden's laptop with Hunter Biden's emails. And so, but now it's too late. We've got the Manchurian candidate in the White House.
So let me, in the short time that we have left, I brought up about the reconciliation bill the 3.5 trillion. I mean, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce came out this last week and said it would be a catastrophe. It would be a catastrophe for the American economy. All of this money, all this free money, putting us so far in debt. The tax increases, making us the most uncompetitive country in the world as far as it comes to taxes. Absolutely terrible for American businesses, entrepreneurs, our inventors, our risk takers. I mean, they're going to be decimated. And this is U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which many of them are members of. So, I mean, they're a pretty good authority on this. What do you read on this? What do you read on the 3.5 trillion?
Well, this is the climate bill. This is the climate bill they've been trying to pass since at least Obama's first term that they couldn't get done. And that's what this is. And they still, I don't think, can get it done.
Seton?
The newest excuse to tax and regulate. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we're just out of time, but boy, it went by really fast. We really appreciate you coming back on the show, and I'm sure we're going to be in touch with you real soon.
I hope so. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Seton Motley, president of Less Government. Hey, folks, stay with us. Dr. Rich and I still have a lot more to talk about.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Just about lost my voice there for a second, Rich. But anyway, boy, we have a great show. You don't want to miss any of this today. Coming up, we're going to have Lindsey Graham, not the Senator Graham, famous name, but still a very, very interesting woman. She was one of the first women to defy the lockdowns. Mm-hmm. She was actually chased out of her state of Oregon, where she had a number of outlets, a gym, salon, tanning salons, and so forth. Council culture took over in Oregon. She and her family were being threatened. Mm-hmm. Really terrible situation. And she picks up and moves to Arizona.
A reverse Oregon Trail.
Where she's doing,
by the way, direction.
Where she's doing very well. And we're going to be very, very happy to have her here just in a few moments. But before that, Senator McConnell had some interesting words this past week, Rich. Let's listen to Senator McConnell for a moment.
The reckless taxing and spending spree the Democrats are riding behind closed doors is designed to leave Americans with a socialist country they never voted for, a country that working families in many ways would barely recognize.
I mean, those are very, very profound words that this, and we just spoke to Motley about this Trojan horse of a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, which, by the way, the progressives are still not even happy because they think it should be $6 trillion, on top of the $1.2 trillion for infrastructure, on top of the $4 trillion to get us out of the pandemic mess last year, the COVID mess, which we're still not out of. But this is particularly worrisome because it's to totally change America into this socialist country.
That's the whole point. That is absolutely the whole point.
The senator said, it's for something that we never voted for. I mean, we didn't vote for this. To think that there's some majority or this is what
they don't have a mandate.
People said.
They don't have a mandate.
There is no mandate here.
Their advantage in the House and obviously not in the Senate is just minutely
it's three
thin.
Seats.
It's minutely thin.
3 seats.
So that's no mandate.
Out of 435 seats in the House. So I mean and then it's 50-50 in the Senate, and to totally transform the country in a single party vote without any sort of bipartisanship into something that is just completely against who we are as a country. And in the wealth that we've created and the system that we have, I mean, it's been unequaled in the history of the world. Yes, does it have its imperfections and flaws, and are there things that we can do better? Absolutely. we can always.
But we have a system for that.
We evolve.
We have a system for
over
that.
time, and
right.
it serves us well. But and what this is going to do to our entrepreneurs, what it's going to do to our small business people, and taking away, because all of their resources. I mean, because how are you going to pay? Well, they're not even going to pay for it. They're not even pretending they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for part of it. But it's because they're going to tax the living daylights out of us.
Everything.
Just
everything.
Take everything. I think California, the effective tax rate in California will be over 60%. And that's California. But the other states, too, are going to get hammered, which means our entrepreneurs and our small businesses, the backbone of the American economy, are going to ultimately be the ones to pay and suffer.
Neil, it is such an insidious group of people on the left doing exactly what you just described. And that is, like, we are, as Seton pointed out, we're destroying our economy and real energy production, and we're going to waste trillions of dollars on fake energy. They're going to push us. The president came out and said in just a few years, we're going to switch to electric vehicles. I don't know who gave him the right to do that. We're going to switch to electric vehicles without any discussion with the American people. Do you really want that to happen? The average person can't afford an electric vehicle right now. Yet, ironically, with all of this, we're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the corporations. We're going to tax their dogs. We're going to tax everything we can tax. We're going to tax the tax guy, the guy who walks to your house to give you your tax bill. We're taxing him too. But the point of the matter is, ultimately, what happens with this? The wealthiest people who will be buying these electric vehicles will get up to $7,500, tax rebate because they're going to buy an electric vehicle. That's all for the wealthy people. I mean, it's just so insane. This is from the Western Journal. Hidden on page 508 of the infrastructure bill is a plan to make it more expensive to drive a car. That is, that they're going to be taxing cars by the miles so they can control where you're going, how you're going, whether you want to be an electric vehicle, whether you want to be in a fossil fuel vehicle. They're going to make it so expensive for you to travel that they're going to control if you can travel, where you can travel, and when you can travel. And that's a pretty scary. I don't think the American people can understand that. They're going to be stunned if this were to go through, that they lost their ability. I mean, the idea of Route 66, forget it. That never would happen, Neil.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, this is serious stuff. Hey, folks, like I said, we have Lindsey Graham coming on, and fascinating woman. You don't want to miss this. Many things she's done, how she saved her business, how she protected her family through this whole pandemic. It is absolutely inspiring. She's also the author of One Mom's Fight for Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. She's going to be with us here in just in a moment. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Sharply higher at the open, stocks continued to perform well over the course of the day Tuesday.
And I think that bodes well here over the next couple of years for having bigger demands coming to this country.
Now, more of Neil Asbury's Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, one thing that I'm really particularly concerned about is cancel culture and how it impacts our entrepreneurial community, our small business community, and it can come out of nowhere. It can come out of nowhere. And if you put that together with the pandemic and COVID and all the governments, particularly in the blue states, that have taken just a radical approach to how businesses should be run, and in many cases, how they should not be run, or they should just simply not exist and they should close down. You have everything invested. And I mean, you're on the brink of financial ruin, and they don't give a damn. They don't get damn the torpedoes. The collateral damage. Who cares? Well, there was one courageous woman last year, and I remember reading about this in Florida, and a story coming out of Oregon of the government in Oregon, is a very left-wing government,
notice?
so you expect it in Oregon, but not
Scary.
like this.
Scary place.
And she owned a gym, a salon. She owned 4 tanning salons, and she defied the lockdown. She says, we're not going to close our business.
Right, they don't like that.
This is America. There's freedom still in our country. We have a constitution, by the way, folks. And cancel culture just took over, threatening her family, threatening her home, everything that they worked for. And she just had enough. She and her family picked up, left the state, and went to Arizona, where she is now doing very well and thriving. She's an author. She's got a blog. She's doing all kinds of incredible stuff, reinventing herself. I mean, hey, look, every entrepreneur needs to reinvent themselves from time to time. And boy, this one was forced on her, and she made it happen. God bless her. What a story. So I'd like to introduce to you Lindsey Graham, who is one of the first business owners in our country to defy the lockdown. She's known as the Patriot Barbie and is the author of the new book, Targeted: One Mom's Fight for Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Lindsey, welcome to Made in America.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that very flattering introduction.
Well, no, if anybody deserves it, you do, because what you went through. And I got to tell you, Lindsey, I think a lot of businesses are fearful for what happened to you could happen to them. What do you think?
So back in May of 2020, I was one of the first Americans to defy the lockdowns and open my business. And at the time, I firmly believed that if I opened up, other people, other businesses would say, okay, we've got someone who's willing to do it and stand up and be brave. I'm going to do it too. And I did open, and actually nobody followed suit. And this is why. Because after I opened, I didn't expect this agenda, but, the government officials are way ahead of us. They're 2 steps ahead. And what they did was every single day, they threatened me with a new citation, a new fine, jail time. Every state agency came after me every day. And that was a public story. And I was publicly posting about it. And people were now seeing, oh, well, maybe I don't want to open. This is going to happen to me. I'm going to get threatened. I'm going to get fined. I'm going to get cited. I'm going to be thrown in jail. And so thinking that I would open and encourage other people to open, the government actually said, well, let's threaten her so badly that other people know if you try to do this too, we're going to come after you in a way that we went after her. And I called their bluff at every step. I never closed down. I never believed that they had the authority to make the threats that they did. And I was right. For the most part, I endured very little actual citation or fine. I was never thrown in jail. And that, to me, shattered the illusion that they had the authority to do this, is the fact that I continued to defy their threats. And again, in the end, there were no consequences. So they were bluffing the entire time.
Yeah, but some of the states, particularly New Jersey, and the governor of New Jersey went after folks just like you. Remember the gym in one of the towns in Jersey defied the law and said, absolutely not. We're doing everything you're supposed to do. We're doing everything the big block stores are doing to keep people safe. In fact, probably better because we don't have as many people, and we're constantly cleaning the equipment because it's a workout place. And they were fined, up to, $180,000, $200,000. I mean, it just kept going. And they became the whipping guys for the governor to make his point. Well, of course, the governor went off on his vacation to Italy. But having said that, he went after these guys heavily. And I tend to think that the folks in the state of New Jersey supported the owners of the gym over the governor. And I think the governor's going to be in trouble as a result of that.
Yes.
So it's very frightening. I mean, listen, these are unalienable rights that are given to us by God, that we have these rights. That is in the Constitution. That is in the Bill of Rights, which you're very familiar with, of course. And so to see what the government is doing to us, and we have to fight for our rights at this point, I mean, my God, this is like Crispus Attucks back in the 1700s.
Right. I don't mind fighting for something, fighting for what I believe in. I don't mind fighting for my conservative values and my beliefs, but to fight for freedom, which is already a God-given right. The fight that we're fighting now so that a chemical doesn't get injected into our body, is absolutely outrageous. And if you've been watching, Oregon, of course, is leading the charge in that, mandating vaccines in state workers, law enforcement officers, and medical officials. This is not a fight that any American should have to take. From 18 months ago when I started this, it's been exhausting financially and emotionally. And it's ridiculous because in the end, people say, oh, thanks for fighting. And I'm like, I'm fighting to work. That's the weirdest fight that anyone should have to take on. I'm fighting to be able to earn my money in a legal manner that the state of Oregon has already issued me a license for. Instead, I'm capable of earning this money. I don't mind fighting for the bigger things, but this is something that every American should be united on.
So what, it's just, well, I want to ask this question, but we're going to have to take a quick break because I really want to get to this before we let you go. We're talking to Lindsey Graham. She's the author of Targeted: One Mom's Fight for Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Stay with us. You don't want to miss it.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury. We're together with Dr. Rich Rothman and Lindsey Graham, who is the author of Targeted: One Mom's Fight for Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Well, Rich, you have an interesting soundbite that I believe you want to introduce.
Yeah,
from,
I think it's apropos.
From Mayor de Blasio.
Exactly. De Blasio, or Comrade de Blasio, or one of the better communists in this country, came out with an edict as it related to vaccine mandates in the city of New York, which has really infuriated tons of folks who, just like Lindsey, who own businesses, own restaurants, have workout environments. And what's happened is that he's upset those folks who have struggled through his previous mandates when people couldn't go to work and things were out of control and crime was rampant, and it still is right now in New York City. These people were struggling to survive. Now they're finally back. They're getting a chance to get their restaurants open, make money, make things work for them again. So then de Blasio comes along with his geniusness and says, well, you know what? Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we just listen to de Blasio?
The whole ball game is vaccination. And once you make that kind of profound strategic decision, you throw everything you got at it. We are not interested in half measures. We're interested in vaccination.
Whether it's indoor dining, fitness, or entertainment, just about anything indoors, starting tomorrow, proof of vaccination will be required in New York City.
Well, there you have it. I mean, there's a manifest, and that's what's happening. So what's happening here, and I want to get Lindsey's point on this, is that you are putting the onus, Lindsey, apparently, onto folks like yourself. You have to do the work for the city to check people coming to your restaurant, coming to your gym, coming to your theater, coming to your bowling alley, coming to wherever they want to go and enjoy them. It's what that's called a life. So you have to have a passport to enjoy your life. What's your thought on that?
Wow, this is crazy because I've made this point multiple times, and it is not the business owner's job to require their employees to take on a job description that was never in their job description. First of all, how are we validating which vaccine passports are correct and legal and not? They're a piece of cardboard paper that you write your own name and birthday on. This is not a legal document whatsoever. The minimum wage employees being forced to check them do not know what to look for and what not to look for. So the whole entire process, once we know that it can't be validated legally, is ridiculous, but the government continues to push it on business owners anyway. And like you said, why are we doing the government's bidding and why are we doing the government's job when we're not being paid for it, reimbursed, we're not even given a tax credit for it? And to be perfectly honest, the unemployment rate is so high. If the government is so dead set on enforcing this, why aren't they creating a team? The vaccine mandate enforcement team and giving people jobs to actually check these things. Not that I advocate for that whatsoever. But if they're going to do it, why aren't they doing it in a way that is smart and actually builds the U.S.'s economy? Instead, they're destroying more small businesses who are now going to lose business because most Americans want their freedoms back and are not going to present a piece of paper that says you can eat, drink, and survive and do fair trade and fair commerce in America. That makes no sense. And whoever compares this to Nazi Germany is pretty close to being accurate at this point.
So during this whole experience of leaving Oregon and moving to Arizona and everything that you and your family's been through, so what have you learned through this whole thing?
I have learned as a business owner not to comply. I very much stand by my decision despite losing my business. I stand by the decision to fight mandates and stand up for what I believe in. I believe that there are not very many people in America that are strong enough to endure fighting that fight and cancel culture. And I was proud to do it, and I would encourage all business owners to take a stand. Conservatives were very quick to flock to my business and support me. And honestly, I lost so much in a fight that God has really turned around and blessed me for. And he's blessed me tenfold and given me a completely different platform in life to glorify him. And I'm so thankful for that. And it all starts with obeying his command instead of a tyrannical government's command. So I'm encouraging business owners to stand up, fight for their rights, be non-compliant peacefully, and earn your spot in the kingdom of heaven, because we're not getting anywhere here in the U.S.
What I found interesting during this whole pandemic was that the government, from the first time that I remember, and I've been around for a little bit, that they would tell you that you're irrelevant. Some people are relevant and some people are irrelevant. If you're a big box store, you're the major supermarket that has thousands of people in it, you're relevant. You can have that. If you're Amazon, you're relevant. If you're Whole Foods, you're relevant. That goes back to Jeff. But if you're someone such as yourself, a small business, living the American dream, if you're a family-run business for many years, they tell you, you can't go to work, your business can't open, you're not important, you're not worthy of surviving. How does that make someone like you feel?
Yeah, that's the exact verbiage they use. You're not essential. And I made that point in my press conferences because right down the street, 5 minutes away, Walmart is open, and we're supposed to all be pretending that this is actually about a, quote, pandemic that is killing people in masses, right? So during this time, if it were really about protecting citizens' lives, Walmart down the street was open with 300 to 400 people in it at any given time, touching everything, mask-free. But because they're buying essential things, they are permitted to do that. That made no sense to me, why I couldn't see 5 clients and do their hair. And I had said during the entire process, no, I don't think that getting your hair done is essential, but that's not the point.
One more time that she is the author of Targeted, One Mom's Fight for Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. I hope you sell a lot of books. Lindsey, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much, you guys. It was a blast.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I are going to have some final thoughts for the day.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Rich, man, we've had a great show. I mean, Lindsey was wonderful. It's so incredible to hear her story. But we've talked a lot about our jobs and what kind of jobs and, the jobs of the future and the sort of economy that we want to have and what potentially could happen if we do the wrong things, like somehow this reconciliation bill gets through Congress, which I don't believe it will. I don't believe it will. We're just not that crazy. We're not that stupid. We will come to our senses. They will not get the votes. That will fail. That's my prediction. But anyway, Rich, we've had a lot of conversations about the type of education that we should have in our country to fulfill the jobs that's out there. And if we're ever going to be a manufacturing country, like so many of us advocate for, we got to have the right sort of skill sets. Mike Rowe, a very well-known guy, Rich, a lot of different shows. He's got a show coming up now on Fox, doesn't he?
He has a show coming up on Fox And he's talking about jobs. He's talking about making things in America, manufacturing and getting a job in America. I mean, we got to talk to Mike. This is important.
He's obviously listened to our show,
yeah,
so he's probably had a.
He took the idea.
And he took the idea.
Took
to Fox.
the idea. There it goes.
Man, he beat us there. But anyway, let's listen to Mike here. A point that he's making about jobs.
Opportunity is alive and well. Nearly 11 million open positions. My point, and the message that comes from my foundation most often, is the disconnect between education and that number. For instance, we're still ardently pressuring kids to get the 4-year degree, and we're telling them if they don't, they will wind up among the disaffected, the unhappy, or the disconnected, or something like that. We're lending money we don't have to these kids who are not going to be able to pay it back, to teach them for jobs that don't really exist anymore. In other words, jobs that aren't among the 11 million that are currently open.
So there you go. I mean, this is something that we've talked a lot about. You know, and what was it? Last week we had the folks from Metallica.
Yeah,
this
is interesting.
The rock band, and very, very fascinating. They've set up a foundation to help pay for vocational schools. And vocational schools, that's part of community colleges. So it's not about getting useless degrees, but it's about getting a really useful skill. And a lot of people are behind this.
Well, this is interesting because I was stunned when I learned about it, and it kind of fits into things that we learned. Metallica, of course, with Kurt Hammett and James Hetfield of Metallica, put together the Metallica Scholars Initiative, and they've given away almost $6 million in the last few years because they want to encourage young people to get jobs and get into trades, because not everyone should have you don't need a 4-year degree to be successful. Life has changed. And it's very important that we have these skill sets that we can fill a lot of these jobs, as Mike Rowe just pointed out. There are about 11 million jobs out there. A lot of them can't be filled because we don't have the skill sets because we're going down a different road. So that's very, very interesting. We also know that Jethro Tull, and we had those guys on about a year and a half ago, they have a program for military guys.
Yeah, for vets.
For vets.
The wounded warriors to make hand sanitizers.
Jethro Tull, not only that, they have to learn how to play a flute. I just want you to know that. And then they have to wear a Tull hat.
But you told me just earlier that Phil Collins has a program in Miami.
This is exciting. And Phil Collins has Little Dreamers Foundation right here in Miami to help young people who have talent develop their talent with scholarships. And he's putting in effort. We're trying to get him on the show, by the way. So we're going to be working on that.
Well, he just started a tour, by the way. I don't know if you've seen Genesis, their farewell tour. Started in Birmingham this week. I'm a big Genesis fan. Well, the old Genesis, but still, the new Genesis too.
With Peter Gabriel.
That
one? You want to talk old Genesis? It's got to have Peter Gabriel.
Yeah, let's, if you're really into it, through The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and Selling England by the Pound. And then after that, I don't know, they changed. But no, we digress. So, Phil Collins, a great guy.
Lives in Miami. He has a home in Miami.
Well, that's that whole divorce
thing. Why not?
Thing.
Miami Vice.
Well, the whole divorce thing.
Michael Mann. Well, come on, gave him a great shot here. I think he gave him one of the Lamborghinis or something in the show. Ferraris or something like that. Anyway, no, this is really, really interesting. And what we're learning with Mike Rowe is that, there are great jobs, there are good opportunities, there are corporations out there that are trying to do the right thing and give back. There are rock stars doing it. There are opportunities for people to really succeed. Just open your eyes and listen.
Thanks for that.
I feel good.
But unfortunately, we're out of time. But we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.